Hello everyone, this is the Bulgarian Stock Exchange earnings call for the fourth quarter of 2018. My name is Ivo Stankov and I shall briefly present to you a short market overview and the report of the exchange for the fourth quarter of 2018. And once you're familiar with our financial standing, Ivan Takev, the CEO of the Bulgarian Stock Exchange, shall present to you the progress of our ongoing projects and our plans for the future. I would like to remind you that there is a number on each slide. Feel free to ask questions during the presentation, mentioning the slide number they refer to. In the end, your questions shall be addressed and answered if possible. If not, we'll obtain the necessary information and try to get back to you by email. You may ask questions through the chat form. When you press the three-dot button, there is a second option to send a question. We're moving on to the presentation now. The fourth quarter of 2018 was more active than the previous ones. Market cap increased by 8.46%, while the values of most indices of BSE dropped. Equity turnover increased by more than 73%, and it formed the largest share of turnover in the fourth quarter. The trade in most groups of financial instruments increased. The number of listed issues also increased slightly to 381 issues. We shall now move to the financial standing of Bulgarian Stock Exchange. With regard to revenue of the exchange, there was an increase of 40% where compared to 2017. That was the effect of an increase in finance revenue. Trading fees dropped by 31%, while information services fees increased by 27%. Finance revenue increased eightfold from 159,000 to 1.35 million less, due to the one-off positive effect of a sale of government bonds held to maturity carried out in the beginning of 2018 and the dividends received by BSE from the 2017 profit distribution of the IBEX subsidiary. This led to the overall revenue growth. You can now see the comparison between the structure of revenue in 2017-2018. It shows the share of each revenue item. And although at first things seem quite different, we have prepared another chart without the finance revenue to illustrate the fact that the share of each item, although decreasing, remains relatively stable over time, considering what we just said about the decrease in trading fees. So here is the comparison between the structure of revenue in the two periods with the finance revenue excluded. Moving now to costs, the total cost of the exchange grew by 37% where compared to the same period of 2017. Hired services expenses increased by 14.5%, materials and consumables grew by 42%, while personnel costs increased by 8%. Other operating expenses increased sixfold. That accounts for a cost related to the impairment of a receivable of BSE Sofia under a session contract amounting to 1,214,245 less. By decision of the board of directors of the exchange, the receivable was impaired by 50% of its value, and that shall also be accounted in the 2018 annual statement. These are the charts of cost in 2017 and 2018. They show the stable structure of cost, considering the effect of the said impairment. At the end of 2018, the net financial result achieved by BSE was positive to the amount of 415,000, which is mainly due to the growing finance revenue, a drop in operating revenue, as well as an increase in other operating expenses due to the accounting of the receivable impairment we just mentioned. The operating loss of Bulgarian Stock Exchange in 2017 was 18,000 less, and in the current period, the operating loss amounted to 1,012,000 less. The net result of Bulgarian Stock Exchange is a profit of 0.06 less per share. We're moving now to assets and liabilities. The total assets of the Bulgarian Stock Exchange at the end of the fourth quarter of 2018 were 10% or 1,079,000 less higher than the value at the end of 2017. The major change in the company's assets is due to the acquisition of the subsidiary Bulgarian Independent Energy Exchange. The purchase is reflected in the investments in subsidiaries item, which grew by 5.18 million. The first installment on the acquisition was financed by selling government securities held by the exchange, according to the decision adopted by the extraordinary general meeting of shareholders held on 26th of September 2017. The financial assets held to maturity decreased accordingly by 402 million less, reflecting the sale of government bonds. The remaining two installments on the purchase are deferred and are reflected in the current liabilities item in the liabilities, which you shall see in the next slide. Current liabilities decreased by 2% or 64,000 less. Cash and cash equivalents grew by 514,000 less, reflecting the positive result of the said government bond sale. There is a drop in other receivables and prepaid expenses by 612,000 less, since they reflect the impairment of a receivable on a session contract on a deposit with a bank in liquidation, which we mentioned in the previous slides. At the end of 2018, the company has no deposits with banks. Regarding liabilities, the value of retained profits at the end of 2017 was 169,000 less, while its value at the end of the current quarter amounted to 377,000 less. The profit accumulated at the end of the fourth quarter of 2018 is due to the growing revenue from the current period. Current liabilities increased by 208%, while the non-current liabilities decreased by 6%. The increase in the former was due to the remaining deferred payments on the IBEX acquisition. The two installments, which are due at the end of February and then the end of August 2019, are presented as non-current liabilities. As you can see from the shareholder structure, there are no major changes to the shareholder structure of BSE Sofia. It remains stable over time. There are minor changes which you can see in the numbers for each quarter. We're now moving to the performance of the own shares of BSE Sofia. The trade in our own shares were lower activity than the previous quarter. The average Q4 price was 5.312 levs per share. The price at the end of the quarter decreased by 0.65 levs per share, or 10%, from 6.05 levs closing price on the 28th of September to 5.40 levs per share on the 28th of December 2018. The minimum price for the quarter was 4.90 levs, and the maximum price was 6.05 levs per share. A total of 174,673 shares were transferred in 261 trades. The total turnover was 927,895 levs, which in comparison to the numbers from the previous quarter, which were 213,518 shares transferred, 125 trades, and the total turnover of 1,279,923 levs during the previous quarter, marked a decrease in the turnover by 18%, volume dropped by 27%, and an increase in the number of trades by 109%. Shares were traded in 48 out of the total 62 sessions during the fourth quarter of 2018. And here is a quick summary of the data regarding trading BSE Sofia own shares, which I just quoted in the previous two slides. I shall now let Ivan Takev present to you the progress of our ongoing projects and our plans for the future. Ivan?
Thank you, Ivo. Before I proceed with the update, I just wanted to briefly mention that please feel free to ask questions by indicating that in the platform. We'll be happy to answer them once we are done with the slides. Let us start with our SME growth market. As we announced in the late December, we received regulatory approval from the Securities Financial Supervision Commission in the last days of December. We've already published the SME growth market rules on our website. They are still only in Bulgarian, but the English version is coming and probably will be available within a week. As a follow-up to our previous earnings calls, we just wanted to again say that we plan to organize a few types of markets. The first is the private market for offerings of up to 1 million euro per year, or secondary listings of up to 1 million euro per year, with or secondary listings with no capital being raised without prospectus. This is actually the private market listing, and public offering is being carried out based on an information document as required by the exchange, and no prospectus will be necessary in this particular case. The second type of market is actually the SME growth market. It will allow for offerings of up to 20 million euro once the prospectus regulations come into force in July 2019. And the last option has always been available. That's for offerings of 20 million euro or more, which is only possible based on a regular prospectus, which is similar to the prospectus that is being required when a company is being listed on the regulated market. This is basically the status quo. What follows next is that we'll be quite active in building a network of advisors to listed companies. Our rules actually require that each company comes to the SME growth market together with an advisor. The advisor is the entity that is supposed to be together with the company throughout its entire life as a listed company. They will advise them, and they will assume certain responsibilities when it comes to their behavior and disclosure as a listed company. And of course, we are planning to actively promote the market among the local SMEs. We have a few events being planned currently. The first one will take place in late February, but it will be announced in the in the first week of February. Just a quick note about what we already announced at the last earnings call. This is the SME supporting voucher program that was launched by the Bulgarian SME Promotion Authority. It's now receives applications from IPO pursuing companies which would like to list and cover their listing costs. Those applicants, once they make a successful IPO and once they raise more than 500,000 Bulgarian leva, will be compensated for their listing costs of up to 50,000 leva. So far, we have no applicants, but at least one company has already indicated that it will use the voucher program. Actually, its IPO is expected or at least the approval of its prospectus is expected in the next month. So the company will most likely announce its application for the voucher program. In the next, I would say, months and weeks, as I said, we will be putting certain effort on the promotion on the market and building that network of advisors. The advisors are supposed to be our front line when we try to approach the non-listed business in Bulgaria, and when we are trying to present the advantages that such a market could present to non-listed companies in order to address their financing needs. Next is an update on our international market. Actually, not much has been happening recently in the last quarter of 2018. We recently made one last attempt to speed up the project, but we still have no feedback from the market maker and the settlement agent. The settlement tests that we expected to be carried out between Clearstream in Luxembourg as a settlement institution for this type of market and the Bulgarian CSD didn't happen, although we had certain expectations related to that. They are unnecessary step in order to make sure that every transaction that is being executed on that market will settle accordingly to the rules of Clearstream Luxembourg. Last but not least, the market maker still hasn't applied in order to obtain the European passport of its license, which is a prerequisite for the market maker to become a member of the Bulgarian Stock Exchange and make the market in international equities and ETFs. Once we receive some feedback from the market maker and the settlement agent, of course, we'll decide the fate of the BSE international market, but that will be properly communicated to all stakeholders and the general audience as well. A brief update on SE Link. Here, again, not much happening in terms of trading activity. No change in the number of interbroker agreements between Bulgarian members and foreign members of SE Link. There are 8 agreements. Our members are 8. Our members are signed to 8 originating broker agreements and 7 execution broker agreements. Nothing has been, no change has been observed since the third quarter of 2018. The discussions with Bucharest Stock Exchange to join the platform are still going, but yet no formal application has been filed from the exchange. In the meantime, 2 Bulgarian investment firms completed their fixed connections, which means that now the instruments that are available on SE Link are available in their DMA platforms and their order management system, so they will be able to process any order flow automatically. Raiffeisen Bank, as we already announced, actually proposed to step in as a settlement agent as an optional service. It is supposed to communicate with the local depositories, which will act as custodians of the local members of the Bulgarian Stock Exchange, but so far CBAD hasn't initiated any steps for implementing the RBI's settlement solution and the Swift messaging system of RBI, which is a prerequisite for the CSD to be able to communicate with Raiffeisen Bank. EBRD has launched the previously announced company research project. It's supposed to sponsor analyst research of non-covered listed companies from six countries. These are Slovenia, Croatia, Serbia, Bulgaria, Macedonia, and Romania. There is no complete overlapping with SE Link, which is not really a problem. But against that fact, we have Romania being joined here, so it will be covered by the research project as well. The project will sponsor analyst research for 2 years, covering 8 companies from each market. There will be just 1 consultant, but consortiums of analysts from different countries are also possible. The project terms of reference are completed and are still pending approval from the board of EBRD. But with that is expected to be obtained in the coming weeks. The project will be started with a workshop, which is to be held in March 2019. That workshop will take place in one of the capital cities of those 6 companies, but it's still undecided when that will, when and where that will happen. And other focus areas, the first is the approved publication arrangement. As we already announced, we received authorization on 25th of October, and we began operations in the early days of December, a week after we launched the BSE new website. Actually, the APA service is integrated into the website. It is currently available using a web-based interface only, but we plan to launch an automated service as a second step, so the clients of the APA service can communicate electronically with the service itself. We are considering different type of communication formats, but we will come to a decision very soon. And as a third step, but that's subject to a further financial or economic analysis, we plan to launch an SI code publication service, which is also possible under MiFID II as a service provided by the authorized publication arrangement. And a few words on the migration from Xetra Classic as a trading technology. As we announced, Xetra Classic will be discontinued in late June or early July 2019. We already selected Deutsche Börse's next generation trading solution, Xetra T7, as a replacement of Xetra Classic, and initiated certain steps towards a timely and successful migration. The migration date is expected to be set on either 24th of June or 1st of July, but that will be mutually agreed between the Bulgarian Stock Exchange and the platform provider. The simulation environment will be open in February 2019, while the localized simulation, the simulation of the Bulgarian Stock Exchange, as it will be available throughout the launch of the production, will be available in late April 2019. Members have already been notified to initiate adjustments to the order management systems together with their software vendors based on the T7 communication protocols. There are a lot of changes in T7 as opposed to the communication protocols in Xetra Classic. So each member that has integrated one piece of technology or another based on those protocols need to recompile its systems in order to be able to make them compatible with the new trading platform. Basically, that's in brief what we were up to in the last quarter of 2018 and what follows next in the coming months. I would like to kindly ask you to ask your questions if you have some.
There are no questions yet. Well, regarding all the information you just heard, feel free to contact us by email or by any other means. If you need any clarifications or any further information, we'll be happy to help you. Thank you for being with us with the earnings call of BSE for the fourth quarter of 2018. Join us again after the end of the first quarter when we will discuss the results of the stock exchange for the first quarter and the annual report. Thank you very much and have a great day.